Since centuries, the mighty St. Lawrence River is the lifeline of Canada. Upon the river, 1535, the French discoverer Jacques Cartier sailed up to the point today called Montreal and planted a French colony called New France. The town of Quebec was founded by his successor Samuel de Champlain in 1608. The town was declared the capital of the colony and is known as the cradle of today's Canada. Behind Russia, Canada is the second largest country in the world, and Quebec, with more than 1.5 million square kilometers, the biggest province. Nearly 5 times larger than Germany, there live only 7.6 million people. 90% of them live in the fruitful lowlands near St. Lawrence River. Only few streets are leading northern and ending nowhere in the wilderness. So there is much ground for intact nature and for Canada's rich animal world. At the Vieux-Port, the old harbour of Montreal, there's only little to be seen from St. Lawrence River. Only the old town with narrow lanes and stone houses remembers past times. Today, you find several boutiques and art galleries in the Great Market Hall of 1847. Near beside there is the old sailor church Notre-Dame des Bons Secours, greeting the ships during the time of colonization. In the year of 1967, the City Hall was place of the famous speech of Charles de Gaulle with the words "Vive le Québec libre, long live free Quebec," showing the French identity of province of Quebec and causing a crisis in the state of Canada. In Montreal, there are many weddings, and nobody is disturbed by the Canadian weather. In the representative atmosphere of the Congress Centre, a lot of wedding societies take their best photographies. Though the province Quebec is very French, its capital Montreal is multicultural. You will get an impression of it a few streets beside in the Chinese Quarter. In one moment you think being in the Brittany, and suddenly you stand in Far East. The quarter arose around 1840 when Chinese railroad workers settled here. The magnificent with gold overlaid arches are a gift of Shanghai. Very special in Montreal is the town in the underground. To have the possibility of comfort shopping during the long and cold winter, there are lots of underground passages connecting the shopping centers. In the modern downtown, you see churches right next to the financial palaces. Many founders would renounce the honor if they could see their memorial today. Montreal is a big city with all pros and cons. Time for us to learn about the true nature of Canada. Only 30 miles beside the big river, there is wilderness. Approachable by several national parks of Canada. During springtime in Parc National de la Mauricie, we meet two widespread animal species. Especially travelers have to get used to them. The tiny black flies are on their way by day, and they leave behind small itching bite injuries. These bloodsuckers you will meet especially in the coming dark. Anyway, it is helpful to have a good antitoxin against flies. La Mauricie National Park was founded in 1970. You can explore about 150 lakes and a lot of other waters along widespread hiking trails. Now it is mid of May, the so-called early season, and winter should say goodbye. Instead, there's bright sunshine and 30 degrees in shadow. A good reason to have a short cooling in the cold lake. The Rivière Saint-Maurice is a tributary of St. Lawrence River with a length of 563 kilometers. In the 18th century, this was the preferred and usual run of the skinners leading northern. A century later, forestry grew up here. The street follows the river and crossing the mountain range of the Laurentides, one of the oldest formations on Earth. After a distance of 270 kilometers from the river, we reach the Lac Bouchette. A few salty places at his banks attract dovetails. They are not chased away by our cameras. The little park beside the lake is dedicated to the most famous son of the village, Victor de la Mare. Grown up with 12 siblings, he worked as a lumberjack at first, started a career as a boxer and a weightlifter, and finally was father of 10 children himself. In the year 1914, he lifted 140 kilograms only with the left arm, a world championship till today. His uncle, the Capuciner monk Éléazar de la Mare, founded in 1907 the Eremitage Saint-Antoine de la Bouchette. 5 years later, the place became well known by some faith healings and became a pilgrimage destination. From Lac Bouchette, it is only 20 kilometers till the view on Lac Saint-Jean is free. The lake arose by the impact of a meteorite about 350 million years ago. With a length of 44 kilometers, it is the third biggest lake in the province Quebec. On his banks, at the mouth of the identically named river, we find the village of Métabetchouan. His roots reach back to 1647, when the Jesuit priest Jean de Caen discovered the lake and established a mission station. The magnificent church Saint-Jérôme remembers till today. The yellow areas on the lake is no wastewater, but an enormous quantity of pollen. The place acted as a meeting place for the Montagnais Indians. In the following years, Jean de Ken built up a trading post here. Later on, agriculture and livestock farming together with several timber mills settled in the plains around the lake. At the end of the fruitful lowland around the Lac Saint-Jean, you are faced with a fantastic fjord landscape. The glaciers of latest ice age grubbed up to 460 meters into the granite rock. This was the birth of the Saguenay Fjord, entering 100 kilometers later into the St. Lawrence River. The Saguenay National Park keeps this beauty of nature on an area of 283 square kilometers. There is a little exposition in the visitor center showing the evolution of the fjord, assumed you understand French.
Plusieurs de ces pentes furent par la suite utilisées par un cours d'eau pour se creuser une vallée et drainer la région environnante. Ce mouvement a pour effet d'élargir la vallée à certains endroits et de la surcreuser à d'autres, lui donnant une forme d'auge. Il y a environ 18 000 ans, le climat s'est réchauffé, entraînant la fonte du glacier, entraînant le retrait de ses membres. Voilà.
The Sentier La Statue, a steep trail of 7 kilometers, leads to a statue of the Virgin Mary, rising 500 meters above the fjord at Cap Trinité. All the way, we will pass several nice outlooks upon the landscape. The 10 meters high and 3-ton heavy statue Notre-Dame du Saguenay was designed by Louis Jobin in 1881 and is watching the sailors on the fjord since 130 years. A garter snake is crossing our way. It's a harmless snake spread over the whole continent of North America. The Canadian toads hide during the day under leaves or in tree holes. At the next bay, the little village called L'Anse-Saint-Jean is situated. The landmark of the village is the wooden bridge Pont Faubourg, built in 1929 and crossing the river. There creeps a curious story. In 1972, a native fisherman paid for a shipment of lumber with a $1,000 note. The picture on the back seemed familiar to him. In fact, it was a picture of the village, including the Pont Faubourg, already on the banknote since 1954. Nobody in town knew this. In the following years, the village had to stand several difficulties. In 1986, the bridge was washed away by ice sheets, and in 1996, a flood destroyed most of L'Anse-Saint-Jean. But the bridge was reconstructed, the little village recovered and is nicer than ever. A little dead-end street near Petite Saguenay leads to a scenic point with a wonderful view on the fjord again. The street turns to south and reaches after 60 kilometers back to the big river, now having a width of 20 kilometers. At the mouth of Saguenay Fjord lies the little village of Baie-Sainte-Catherine. Here you have the chance to see one of the greatest attractions of eastern Canada. Several times a day, boats go out for watching whales and give tourists the chance to behold the big marine mammals very near.
Votre guide biologiste aujourd'hui. Important d'écouter les informations. On a des gens partout à travers le monde. Si vous ne comprenez pas l'aventure, vous allez avoir de la difficulté à... Les conditions qui ont un impact sur nous, ce qui se passe dans l'eau, les courants, les marées. Ces animaux-là qu'on va tenter de voir ensemble aujourd'hui viennent manger. On les voit avril à novembre, c'est la principale saison.
Cetacean species can be watched in St. Lawrence River, also the big blue whale, finfish and the humpback whale. But you will see them only during summer. All the year you meet the Arctic belugas or so-called white whales, about 500 animals. The St. Lawrence River is one of the most southern points, having a continuous population of these rare and heavy exposed whales. Belugas are small whales with a length of 3 to 6 meters and with a weight of 400 to 1,000 kilos. Remarkable is the short and flexible head with a protruding thickening forming out during years. The color of the animals is changing during their life. After birth, they are gray. 1 year later, the color is blue-gray, changing into a bright white after the 5th year of life. They are very sociable and live together in small groups or families. Their voice is from buzzing and squeaking up to very high tones. Because of their love of singing, sailors call them canaries of the seas. A mink whale appears in front of us. With 8 to 9 meters, he's a bit bigger than belugas and no toothed whale, but a baleen whale. His food is krill and little fishes. There's no bridge upon the Saguenay Fjord flowing into the big river. Instead, car ferries free of charge run between both banks. Off the fjord, there's another historic place of Canada. Pierre Chauvin founded in the year of 1600 in Tadoussac the first permanent French trading post in New France. Soon, Jesuits settled here to missionize native Indians. A small wooden church gives proof of this. In the middle of the 19th century, tourism grew up. Cruise ships came to this place. Finally, in 1864, the magnificent Grand Hotel Tadoussac was built, still dominating the image of the village. By now, there are about 850 inhabitants. The Sentier Point de l'Islette leads over a granite lane along the bank and informs about the history of the bay. To continue our journey to Peninsula Gaspe, we have to cross the big river. So, back across the fjord to the ferry harbor of Saint-Simenon, 35 kilometers away. Near the terminal, children discovered something. A lonely seal baby at the beach, no track from the mother.
Quand je suis venue avec Anthony tantôt, il était là-bas puis il était en train de sécher. Il était viré sur le dos puis il levait sa queue. J'ai bien touché mon dos. Ben, c'est fait. J'ai touché. Ah ouais, t'es bonne. Hé, Marie, t'es dans l'eau. Y'a rien là. Mais c'est pas une bonne idée. Parce que je passe seule. Comment il est blessé sa tête? Il est blessé sa tête, on dirait. Allez, toi. Salut. Il va te manger. Il t'aime. Ben, depuis que ça a une queue. Ben, elle a une queue. Ben, c'est quoi ça, en arrière, en dessous de pattes? Ouais, c'est cool. Mais 2 fois dans les infos ici. Ouais. T'en as toujours. Oh, tu l'as entendu? Eh, bon, non, il y a de l'eau. Dans l'eau. Ben oui.
At the ferry's office, they measured our camper and declared that the water level in the morning is too low to bring the camper safe on deck. We have to wait for the afternoon ferry and time to take an ample walk along the banks. Meanwhile, a ranger arrived at the pier and takes care that the seal mom can take her baby under her wings again. The crossing lasts 1 hour and is no more free of charge. On the river, we meet belugas and seals again, not far from the boat. We arrived in Parc National du Bic, our first station at the southern banks of the St. Lawrence River. The wonderful weather of last week seems to say goodbye and the sky looks dramatic. At last, it is only a short rain lasting half an hour. After that, the evening sun colors the land into a pastel and cereal light. Our disguise is based not on the cold, but on the well-known pests that inhabit now after the rain the total airspace. On the banks, we discovered a white-tailed Virginia deer. His habitat extends from southern Canada to Peru. The Bic National Park was founded in the year of 1984, with about 33 square kilometers, only a small area. A legend of the Mi'kmaq Indians tell how the area was formed. An angel got order from God to spread mountains across the earth. But at last he ran out of steam and spilled the rest over Bic. The result is a mosaic of little islands and marshy landscapes surrounded by a rocky shore. The rocks are of paper-thin granite slates.
Sur les routes de Joliette à Québec, j'ai rencontré trois belles filles du pays. J'ai fait risette à la jeune, c'était la plus jolie. Elle me clignait de l'œil en me disant ceci: ah, les fraises et les framboises, du bon vin j'en ai bu. Croyez-moi, belle villageoise, jamais je me suis tant plu. Ah, les fraises et les framboises, du bon vin j'en ai bu. Croyez-moi, belle villageoise, jamais je me suis tant plu. Elle me clignait de l'œil en me disant ceci: venez donc villageoise, y en a encore à boire. Venez donc villageoise, y en a encore à boire. En faisant la cueillette des fraises et des framboises, ah, les fraises et les framboises, du bon vin j'en ai bu. Croyez-moi, belle villageoise, jamais je me suis tant plu. Ah, les fraises et les framboises, du bon vin j'en ai bu. Croyez-moi, belle villageoise, jamais je me suis tant plu.
In this area, you still find some farms of English settlers. Yet, left since decades, you find the buildings in a pretty good condition.
Ah, les fraises et les framboises, du bon vin j'en ai bu. Croyez-moi, belle villageoise, jamais je me suis tant plu. Ah, les fraises et les framboises, du bon vin j'en ai bu. Croyez-moi, belle villageoise, jamais je me suis tant plu.
The Phare de Pont-au-Père, with 33 meters, is the second highest lighthouse in the east of Canada. It was in action from 1909 to 1975 and is already the third lighthouse at this place. In the year 2006, the Site historique maritime de la Pont-au-Père bought the decommissioned submarine Onondaga, built in 1964 for the token sum of $4 Canadian plus tax. Since June 2009, it is museum ship at the pier of Pointe-au-Père. While raining, we continue our trip to Les Capucins. There, we find a nice place to stay for the night and to watch the sunset in the first lane. What a sunset! Lasting 2 hours, there was a rave of colors over the St. Lawrence River. While following the coast road, we reach the peninsula Gaspe, passing little sleepy villages such as Sainte-Anne-de-Mont. Beside the road, we see La Marthe, another historic lighthouse from 1906, built as a timber construction. In the red-colored building, the Origin technical systems are still in action. The further you come to east, the more spectacular becomes the landscape. Passing waterfalls and deep bays, the road loops around the flanks of the Appalachian Mountains. Most of the interior of the country is unapproachable, so life concentrates to the coast, with one village after the other. The lighthouse at Cap de Rosière was built in 1858, with 37 meters, the highest in the country. A short time later, after reaching the end of the peninsula, you are entering the Parc National de Forillon. This national park exists since 1970 and is the oldest in the province of Quebec. In an area of 244 square kilometers, you will meet the wild animals of Canada. At the end of the route, charts show what you get possibly to see by watching the sea. A trail leads to the spectacular Cap Gaspe. Loud chattering of teeth directs our attention on a tree beside the way. Two porcupines made themselves comfortable and show the visitors with threatening gestures not to bother them. Approaching hikers were cautioning us against a bear making the trek unsafe. We find his scat droppings in constant distances. First, however, a forest marmot expecting us, mumbling the grass of the meadow.
J'ai fait une maîtresse 3 jours y a pas longtemps. J'ai fait une maîtresse 3 jours y a pas longtemps. Mais c'est quand je vais la voir qu'elle mit ainsi à boire du meilleur son vin à ta santé catin. Mais c'est quand je vais la voir qu'elle mit ainsi à boire du meilleur son vin à ta santé catin, à ta santé Lisette, à ta santé je bois, à ta santé Lisette, à ta santé je bois. Si tu n'étais pas si jeunette, je te parlerais d'amour.
Again, no bear, but another porcupine beside the path. Behind the next bush, the next surprise. an impressive moose cow with recruitment and hardly disturbed by us.
Encore un an, je serai ton amant, le bonhomme qui est aux écoutes, en entendit cela, le bonhomme qui est aux écoutes, en entendit cela, ma fille en mariage, elle a reçu.
Then, finally, a brown point with ears in the distance.
Que vous, galant, retirez-vous, ma fille en mariage, elle a reçu tous ses gages, d'un autre amant que vous, galant, retirez-vous, s'il faut que je me retire, je me retirerai. S'il faut que je retire, je me retirerai dans un...
In safe distance to the Black Bear, we are following the remaining path up to the Cape.
J'irai finir mes jours, adieu donc mes amours, dans un couvent d'ermites, pour l'amour des jolies filles. J'irai finir mes jours, adieu donc mes amours.
On our way back, we suddenly are faced with a highwayman. The beer of which the Canadians reported us and which we had apparently unnoticed passed before. He makes himself comfortable and has no interest to let us pass.
Recousant sa semelle, mes parents sont talents. Excusez la chanson, assis dessus sa selle, en recousant sa semelle. Les parents sont talents. Excusez la chanson.
Finally, he toddles off into the bush and gives the way free.
J'ai fait une maîtresse 3 jours y a pas longtemps. J'ai fait une maîtresse 3 jours y a pas longtemps.
L'Anse aux Sauvages, a restored fisherman's village, is one of the historical places in the national park. Once codfish was dried here during summer and delivered all over the world. The Hyman store was built by William Hyman in the year of 1864. Heading south, we come to a scenic highlight of East Canada. Since the days of Cartier and Champlain, the landmark of the Gaspe Peninsula is the Rocher Percé. A 88-meter-high and 475-meter-long reddish limestone rock rises up here out of the sea. At low tide, you can walk over by foot. He got his name by the archway drilled through the rock by the sea during centuries. The lonely rock pinnacle marks a second archway collapsed in 1845. The little place Percé is one of the most attractive villages of Gaspe Peninsula. It offers a tourist infrastructure with souvenir shops and ticket booths for boat trips to nearby bird island Île Bonaventure, North America's largest migratory bird squatter, where you can also visit a colony of more than 100,000 bass gannets. Due to bad weather and high sea, we better cancel the trip. The Parc de Miguasha is the smallest national park in the province of Quebec. In 1842, Abraham Gesner, a geologist and doctor, discovered a large field with fossilizations at this place. Soon it was the world's most important place to find fossils from the Devonian, the age when the sea creatures conquered the land. As the rumor arose that some Americans wanted to buy the field, 1985, Quebec's government blocked the privatization through the establishment of the national park. The museum hosts more than 9,000 fossils of fishes and plants, comprehensive overview over the findings of Miguasha. The Pointe à la Croix is leading to New Brunswick. There, the road signs are no longer French, but English, and the clocks forward by 1 hour to Quebec. We stay in Quebec and make a trip into the outback to see the Chute à Picot, a small but fine waterfall.
Je voudrais mourir, c'est dans les bras de mon petit bébé. Mandez pardon pour ce que j'ai fait. Là j'ai dans le cœur de m'en aller dans le grand guénon.
Soon later, we finished our Gaspe trip and reached the big river again.
On va mourir, j'aimerais que tu viennes. Fermez mes yeux, petit bébé, pour moi je m'en vais. Pour moi je m'en vais dans la terre pour toujours. Je me dis qu'on est c'est du mal du singe anglais. Et si petite, si mignonne, si canaille, petit bébé, mais je t'aime quand même. Ouais, je vois plus dans le monde comment je m'appelle. Il n'y a plus personne dans le pays qui veut m'aimer.
A worth-to-see stopover on the way to Quebec is Kamouraska, a scenic village with a lot of nice wooden houses, founded already in 1674. The name is Algonquin and means at the banks. Well known is the village by the identically named Roman of the Canadian authoress Anne Hébert, and of course by the unconventional light curved Kamouraska roofs gracing a lot of houses here. Now it is only 150 kilometers till we reach Ville de Québec, the Indian word for the point where the river gets narrow. Only few minutes takes run over with a ferry from Lewis directly to the old part of Quebec town. Quebec's landmark is Château Frontenac. It dominates, obviously, the view over the city. In Basseville, the lower city, you enter the Quartier Petit Champlain, consisting of only two narrow parallel streets with many small art galleries, fashion and jewelry shops. The historical past of the city remains alive by the enormous painting at the fronts and by the traditional music, which is played by native artists such as Jacques Dupuis in the streets. The funiculaire de Vieux-Québec, a cog railway, leads up to the upper city. In the house, which serves today as valley station for the funiculaire, once lived Louis Gelée, a skinner who discovered in 1673 on one of his journeys into the American West the Mississippi and explored the river. Hauteville, the upper town, was built on the mountain spur Cap Diamant. There, at the overgrown hills under the walls of the old Bastille, we find well-known friends we not at all expected in a city: forest marmots. Vieux-Québec is the only town in North America with a complete intact town wall. The police convoy suggests a high state visit. But it's only a protection for a group of cyclists who are part of a presentation. Not only the tourists are astonished. With its numerous cathedrals, Quebec is the center of the Roman Catholic Church of North America. The most famous is Basilique Cathédrale Notre-Dame de Québec, the interior almost dazzling the visitors. With its golden altar and the three huge Casavant organs, it is for the Québécois a symbol of their French culture in Canada. Hundreds of prominent residents rest in the crypt, including François de Laval, first Bishop of Quebec, under whose leadership the continent from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico was missioned. Outside, on Rue du Trésor, local artists are showing their works. And if someone wants to be perpetuated, he will easily find a performer doing this quickly and in a professional way.
Le Percé chantait
Louis, on the other side of the river, it is clearly calmer. Our pitch allows a magnificent view on Quebec by night. Next morning, the city is in the light of the Canadian sun. Also, the ferry is already on the way. This time, we are taking the overland route to Quebec and drive 10 kilometers upstream where two bridges span over the St. Lawrence River. Finished in 1970, the chain bridge Pont Pierre-Laporte in the background has an overall length of 1,041 meters. It is covered by the distinctive Quebec Bridge, which collapsed twice during the construction period in the years 1907 and 1916 and was finally finished not until 3rd of October 1919. With an overall span of 576 meters, it is the largest riveted steel truss bridge of the world. Quebec was founded in 1608 by Samuel de Champlain as a wooden fort and developed to a terminal of a fur trade empire. In the upper town, the inhabitants set a monument for the founding father. However, there exists no contemporary pictures of Champlain, so the man on the base is probably a product of fantasy. The Château Frontenac is not a castle, but a luxury hotel. It was established 1893 by the architect Bruce Price for the Canadian Pacific Railway in the style of historism. In former times, Château Saint-Louis stood at this place, the residence of the governors of New France. Behind there is an extensive terrace of 500 meters, the so-called balcony of the upper town. With a fantastic view on St. Lawrence River, it is a popular meeting point for natives and tourists. Contrary to the multicultural megacity Montreal, Quebec, with its 720,000 inhabitants, has the charm of a cozy French village. As the first town of North America in 1985, the UNESCO declared the old winding part of the town to be World Cultural Heritage. And again, Jacques is on the way and ensures with his songs for a good mood in the streets. Here, we see that school lessons can be quite exciting.
The first man to explore Canada in 1535. No! Woo! No, it wasn't Champlain.
At Place Royale, we find Notre-Dame de Victoire, one of the oldest stone-built churches of North America. The construction started in 1687 and was completed in 1723. However, 36 years later the church was destroyed during the British Leaguer. The reconstruction by native carpenters lasted more than 50 years. At the ceiling there is a model of the Percé, a sailing boat that brought in 1665 soldiers to the colony, which was bothered by the Iroquois. In range of vision, only 13 kilometers northeast from Quebec, the Chutes Montmorency are situated. The river with the same name rushes over a rock wall 83 meters into the St. Lawrence River. So this is the highest waterfall in the province Quebec and even 30 meters higher than the Niagara Falls. Beside the mighty floods, we finish our journey through the French cradle of Canada.